What is up to all my people who reside in the center? This is Center of the Circle podcast, and I am Dominic. Today, we are going to talk about commitment. Okay. So, I just had a conversation about relationships and what commitment looks like. We talked about what it used to look like, and ultimately, we talked about what seems to work best. Now, relationships are tricky things. We know this. So when two people come together, okay, and decide to make a life together, whether that's boyfriend, girlfriend, whether that's ultimately marriage and family and all that good stuff, right? When two people come together to make a life together, essentially what's happening is there is an agreement. I always look at relationships and marriage as a business agreement, okay? But a lot of people don't see them that way in this culture and in this society, right? We've been told this idealistic viewpoint of marriage that we're the Disney generation. We're essentially we're gonna meet our Prince Charming. He's gonna sweep us off our feet, and we're gonna live happily ever after. Well, talk to anyone who's been married for a significant amount of time. There is no such thing as happily ever after without lots and lots of work and compromise. And this leads me to my point. Marriage is a business agreement. We go into it and we say, this is what I'm going to provide. This is what you're going to receive. Are you okay with that? One party says yes. The other party, this is what I'm going to provide. This is what you're going to receive. Are you okay with that? Yes or no. Then, as we go along our contract, we may have to update its terms. Say our contract is only good, I would say, in relationships every 3 to 5 years. We're going to go through a major shift in personality and thoughts, life events. We're just going to be different people. Not completely different people, but definitely different people and different needs than 3 to 5 years ago, right? So essentially, we have to update those terms and agreements, and there's where strong communication comes in, right? We have to communicate to each other where we're at and what we need. This is the tricky part. People not may not like this, but our society teaches us not to accept each other for who we are. This is why marriage rates have plummeted with my generation. This is why 80% of divorces are started by women. 80%. Because society has taught us not to accept each other. But see, marriage is a business agreement. Okay. So when we come into a business agreement, we have to come into it with what they call good faith, meaning I have the best intentions. I'm not trying to manipulate or lie to you, and vice versa. Here's the problem, specifically for on the lady side. Okay, if you have an idealistic view of marriage, if you have an idealistic view of what a husband looks like or what you want your relationship to look like, well, it's very difficult for a man to come into a good faith agreement because that man feels like they have to be A, B, C, and D. And here's where we get into the problem. Why do you think infidelity is such a big issue? Right? Why is we seeing a semi-gender war starting now? Because women have demands and they hold the keys to sex, quite frankly. And so the men have figured out, well, if we simply give you a list that fulfills your demands, we can get to the sex and we can get to the marriage, right? Or the relationship. Problem is, they may not really feel the way that's on that list. It's just we know this is what we have to do to get you. So, in a weird way, you actually create your worst fear when you have an idealistic view of what marriage, of what men look like. So instead of taking on a more realistic approach, right? Not expecting or not having a list of wants and meeting people where they are, and then you could find what you want, right? You could find the people that mess with you. You could find the ones that go well with what you want. But when you start off with that list of demands, which the culture has now, right? When I talk to men, they feel so much pressure. And I'm speaking for the fellas because I mean, that's just what I am. They feel so much pressure to be certain things, to not say certain things, right? That they can't do certain things. And so when they come to the relationship, when they first meet you, right? It's them putting on an audition to fill the list of wants that they know that you have. And so in a lot of ways, ladies, you actually create the thing that you fear the most, which is a dishonest man. Deceit, cheating are the same thing. It's all about the dishonesty. But you've created that with your, I have to have a certain set of keys to unlock the ignition. So as long as I come with those keys, then I'm good to go. You're not worried about if they're genuine, if they're honest, right? Just if they're going to play the role that you have in your head. And so here's the issue with relationships, right? It's hard to come to a good faith agreement when both parties aren't being genuine. Because, quite frankly, an idealistic view of marriage, having a list of wants, is not very genuine either. Because you don't just want those list of wants. There's a lot more you want to that. There's a lot more you want around those list of wants, right? But you can't even see that. You can't even get to that. If they fulfill those lists of wants, then it's like, okay, all right, check, 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 we're good to go. And then 6 years later, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm bamboozled because he's not who I thought he was, right? Yeah, because you never stopped to see him for what he was. And you, quite frankly, you never opened up to allow him to be who he was and what he was. See, the traditional agreement between two people in marriage back, let's say in our grandparents' days or even our great grandparents' days, was it was an agreement of duty, an agreement of business. And there wasn't this idealistic view. It was two people who said, we are going to build together no matter what. Which most people say in their vows, but vows kind of get thrown out the window. We are going to build together no matter what comes our way. And so we know, because we know each other at this point, I would hope that you know the person you're marrying at least a little bit. We know what this person will like, don't like, and we have to have those communications. Again, business agreement. So I'm going to do my part, you're going to do your part. But at the same time, again, that business agreement is going to change. And we can't be so quick to, when things aren't going our way, to jump ship. Because again, a relationship is just a business agreement, and any business agreement can't work without both parties. One party just decides to quit, then the business agreement is null and void. It's over with, right? We have to be in it for the long haul. Two people truly committed for the betterment of the group and the betterment of themselves. This is a big part too, right? People forget about the self-work in relationships. It becomes all about the team. It's not all about the team. Better you, better them, better team. That's how that works. Better you, better them, better team. Okay. But again, this boils down to letting people be who they're going to be. And if you're not ready for that, if you're not ready to get married at 20 and have your man want to have other women, I suggest not getting married. If you're not married at 20 and you're not ready for your woman to go through a drastic shift in personality, I suggest you not get married. I suggest you not even go down the road of relationship, because you're not ready to even have open conversation, let alone accept people for who they are or where they are. See, that's the reason our great grandparents' marriages last. When you see these couples now, oh, 70 years, 60 years, and we all applaud them, we share their posts on Facebook, we'll have conversations with them and see what they had to deal with and put up with in order to make it work. But see, it takes two people. And just because someone makes mistakes, just because someone wants something that maybe you don't like, does not mean that those people are still not committed to each other. Ask about infidelity with your great grandparents. Just ask. It doesn't mean two people aren't committed to each other, right? Here's where strong communication comes in. Here's where the commitment comes in. See, love is secondary with marriage, with relationship. Love is secondary. First is duty, contract, and contract. That is the first. As a man, what is your duty? For most men, is to provide, to lead. As a woman, it's nurture. Father, if you got kids, your duty as a father, your duty as a mother, your duty as a husband, your duty as a wife. Those come first. Love is second. See, once we put love first and we try to base everything off of emotional decisions or how we're feeling, that's when marriages fall apart. That's why marriage rates are plummeting. And marriage rates plummeting means more single parents. And more single parents means a greater imbalance of energy, because now kids don't have both sides of the spectrum to raise them, right? More single parents means, well, it means a lot that is deeper than we can get into. I'll save that for another video. So relationships and marriage are not easy. This is not Disney. These are very tough conversations. This is you sticking with somebody through all the changes that they go through, and vice versa. Isn't that the love that you want? Isn't that the relationship you want? Isn't that the marriage you want, one that lasts 60 years and you still love each other? Well, you got to give that. You have to be committed to that first. Then the other person has to be committed to that. We have to be committed to that. We can't say 60-year, I'll love you till death do us part, unless you change. Well, I'm going to change, and I'm going to change a lot. Things are going to be very different all the time. That's just how human beings work. And if you're not ready to deal with that, if you're not ready to deal with tough conversations around sex, around sexuality, around lifestyle, around friendships, if you're not ready to deal with conversations around weight, around children, how they're going to be raised, around finance, if you're not ready for these conversations with someone, how can you expect to marry them? And how can you expect to marry them for life? We are not robots. Men, we are not robots. Ladies, you're not robots. Things are going to change. I'm going to have different things I want at 20 than at 30 and at 40 and at 50. And if you're not ready to ride those highs and lows, don't get married. Matter of fact, don't start relationships. You have more self-work to do. You have more confidence to build. You have to realize life is not like Disney Channel. No one's like that. And that's the reason marriage rates are plummeting. That's the reason 80% of marriages are filed by women, because there are these expectations and they're not realistic and they're not working. No one's happy. Men aren't happy. Women aren't happy. No one's happy here. We're outside of the flow, of the natural flow of things, way outside of it. So we have to get back to duty and contract first, making a commitment, sticking to it through all the craziness. Love, secondary. We have strong family units at that point. Let's have strong communication. We raise better children who have more of a well-balanced childhood, which makes for a better society, which makes for more of our children having better relationships in the future, right? We have to get back to real commitment, real relationships. So if you took anything from this video, please let me know. If you want me to touch on anything, also let me know. But as always, this has been Center of the Circle podcast with Dominic, and I love you.